What's going on, everyone? We've got an exciting video today because we've got everyone's favorite 12 drop capital ship that we're going to try to play. We've got some new whales and creatures in space that seem to be pretty powerful, including some creature synergies, as well as some pretty interesting upgrades to the First Order and potentially Kira. Let's not waste any time. A big thank you to my patrons over on Patreon, guys. And let's dive into the first one, which is Second Sister. 4-cost ground unit in Cunning Villainy. It's a 3/6 Force Imperial Inquisitor. On attack, you may deal 2 cards from your deck. For each Force card discarded this way, ready a resource. So pretty interesting. Very, very unique ability. We haven't really seen this ability to ready a bunch of resources without a huge downside. Discarding 2 cards from your deck is really not that big of a deal. There are very few matchups that will go to, 10, 15 or less cards in the deck. And to be honest, getting 3 to 4 attacks in was already insane with this character. Like, you're not going to get 4 attacks in with a unit usually, unless it's a space unit. So that's probably never going to happen anyways. So really, when we're looking at this is, are we going to be able to leverage this on the next attack with the readied up resources? Because the downside isn't that big of a deal, because the 3/6 stat line, it's not horrible, right? You're getting 9 points of stats, which is usually what you want in a 4-drop, like a 4/5 or a 5/4. This one doesn't die to 5/4s, which is nice, but it's also pretty on the defensive side of things. Of course, and this is really quite important, Grand Inquisitor, the original Grand Inquisitor with Second Sister, looks pretty interesting because you can potentially play her, ready her up immediately, attack, and then play Force Throw on the 4 resource turn, right? So that's pretty interesting. What Force cards are we looking at? Well, there's not a whole lot, right? I'm thinking, okay, if we're going to play this and then get an attack in, we have to play something else on the following turn when we have 5 resources to actually get value from this, or we immediately ready her up on the turn she gets played, and then we get value from it that way. Realistically, you need cheap events to get value out of Second Sister, or cheap cards, or have multiple Force cards in your deck that is going to be able to trigger it in the first place. And amongst all of those, okay, it is really not super likely to actually get a high concentration of Force cards. Like, in the most Force dominant decks, you're seeing maybe like 35 to maybe 40 cards at the most of Force cards, which means, let's say you discard a card, you've got somewhere between like a 70 to 80% chance of hitting a Force card each time you trigger it, which means you have less than a 50% chance overall of getting 2 resources back. So realistically, I don't think this is all that fantastic. However, as I said earlier, the exciting part about her is Grand Inquisitor. Being able to ready her up immediately and getting maybe some Force throws in or whatever, just being able to leverage that extra 1 resource, like Sorceress Blast, for example, could be played off of her, or even like a Force Lightning potentially, if the 1 resource matters, or maybe 2 resources matters. Next up, as I mentioned earlier, our brand new capital ship in the First Order. 12-cost space unit in Command Villainy. It's a 12/12 First Order vehicle capital ship. It's got ambush, which is incredibly important, and other friendly vehicle units get +6/+6. So first off, guys, it's a 12-drop. It's basically going to be unplayable in the vast majority of decks. The one deck that you're considering, I'm sure, is Piet. There are other options like maybe Palpatine or Uber ramp decks that maybe get to 12 resources, and this actually helps them win the game. But realistically, the most expensive card that we're seeing oftentimes in the meta is like Annihilator, and that's an 11-drop, and that's only in rare circumstances and usually only in control mirror matches. That's really it. Outside of that, is Supremacy actually going to do some work? Well, first off, it doesn't do anything if your opponent doesn't really have any space units, or you don't have any space units, because ambush doesn't function unless your opponent actually has space units to ambush through. And then if you don't have vehicle units, well, and most likely specifically space units, you're not going to get benefit from this other effect. So what are we doing here? Well, if I could compare this to something like a Devastator for 10 resources in Piet, I would 100% rather play the set 1 10 resource Devastators 9 times out of 10, maybe even like 9.9 times out of 10, because it comes down earlier, it removes things in Ground Arena, it provides a Sentinel body. All of those things are massively important, and there's only so many slots that you have for big space units, okay? But if this comes down and you've got a couple TIE Fighter tokens, Vader, this thing's going to end the game basically immediately. Getting +6/+6 is absurd. And of course, everyone wants to mention this, everyone wants me to mention this every single time, and that is Twin Suns, guys. When this thing comes down, your board of vehicle units is going to be disgustingly massive. So that's pretty cool there. Next up, we've got Exegol Patroller. This one's actually interesting to me. We have a 2-cost space unit in command villainy. It's a 3/1 with overwhelm. Nothing too exciting there, but it does have the First Order and Sith and vehicle and fighter tags. So, of course, First Order tag is relevant if you're trying to play Phasma or whatever. And you do want to be playing like Phasma ECL because of how good the Phasma unit is. So that's pretty exciting for that reason. Overwhelm, not really going to be all that applicable. The Sith tag could be applicable in certain circumstances, but really, can we build a First Order deck? And this does help. It does help a good amount because we have a very, very minimal early First Order plays and just First Order plays in general. I think that's the coolest thing about this. Outside of that, nothing much to talk about. But we also have another First Order unit in the Supremacy TIE, Special Forces TIE Fighter. We have the 3 resource space unit Vigilance Villainy, 3/3 with Sentinel. Pretty straightforward, and I think this is an immediate upgrade for a lot of decks. There are a lot of decks that are just straight up playing Black Sun Starfighter, which is a 3/2 Sentinel, and generally that's all that they care about. The traits don't matter for that card, so this is just an extra toughness in those situations, and that can be massive for certain matchups, especially with like Arc 170 roaming around, or even just some other 2-powered units in space. So that's huge. It also, survives Daring Raid or any 2-cost or 2 damage event or anything like that, which is pretty important. And in something like, say, like Kira, because she's Vigilance, right? She can put a shield token on it, whereas Black Sun Starfighter, you could not. So that's pretty interesting as well. Now, realistically, how like insane or popular is this card going to be? Probably not like incredibly insane, but it is a kind of key curve out piece that a lot of decks really value. Black Sun Starfighter is a pretty big staple. We see it with a lot of decks that are playing like Vader. They'll deploy Vader, they get an ambush, and they want a Sentinel, both in space and in ground. Depending on the situation, they're going to go ahead and yoink that up. So I do think Supremacy TIE does fit well. And just think about it, right? This just goes perfectly with the decks that we're going to play the new Vader as well, like the Vigilance, Villainy, Command decks. So you get to play the new Vader and the old Vader, and you get these other Sentinels that are going to help you survive. It just makes a lot of sense. Next up, we've got Mythosaur. This one was released a few days ago. 9-drop ground unit in Vigilance. It's a 10/10 shielded Mandalorian creature. Friendly unit upgrade units can't be exhausted or returned to hand by enemy card abilities. And friendly leaders gain the Mandalorian trait. Absolutely sweet. Absolutely amazing. But not very good. Okay, 9-drop units, not really going to be all that playable. If you're thinking about what this does, well, first off, immediate comparison is Zillow Beast, right? Why? Well, Zillow Beast has the same cost. It's going to have the same stat line. And the Zillow Beast actually affects the board immediately when it comes down by giving all ground units the reduction in power. This thing comes down, doesn't do anything when it comes down. It's a 9-drop that does absolutely nothing. That's a huge knock against it. It's shielded, which is cool. It does buff up your upgraded units. But again, this is one of those cards where if you have a bunch of upgraded units and your solution to protecting your upgraded units is playing a 9-drop, you're probably losing that game. But in Twin Suns, I could see this being an absolute menace of a unit. So I think that's pretty cool. Next up, we've got Pounce. Now this card, very straightforward, but very, very powerful. That is 2-cost event, cunning, attack with a creature unit. It gains +4/+0 for this attack. Very, very straightforward. Very, very powerful, okay? The thing with this card is it's basically just a better surprise strike for your creatures. Here's the big downside for this. We have 0 cunning creatures. 0 cunning creatures as of, the card pool that we have currently. That's a huge downside to Pounce. If we were to dive into the most applicable aspect, which would either be Vigilance or Aggression. Vigilance does have some double Vigilance cards, which means you're probably not playing Pounce in your double Vigilance deck. So aggression is most likely. We've got things like hunting next to Wampa, the two new ones, the Tukata and the Fearnock. Of course, you have like Porg and the Curious Flock, the group of Porgs. But those ones aren't really going to get it done. So this card to me is like a big 0 right now. It doesn't do anything because there are not enough creatures to really support this at the current moment. If you were to even include like double vigilance, so you're trying to play double vigilance and play this out of aspect, well, you get like Doom, Lothwolf, you get Ogdobogdo, but like some of those cards don't even function without other synergies in place. So this is definitely one of those cards where it's a big 0 right now, but it's also a big question mark next to it. Are we going to see a bunch more creatures? If we do, then Pounce could be a staple, like an absolute banger of a staple. And next up, we've got Grappling Guardian. This one is probably my favorite card of today, just because of how silly this is. 7-cost space unit in Vigilance, 3/9 creature. When played, you may defeat a space unit with 6 or less remaining HP. So it comes down, bashes a space unit. And this thing takes out like new Devastator. It takes out Ghost. It takes out Ether Sprite. It takes out Qui-Gon Jinn's Ether Sprite. It takes out all of the typically played units. Takes out Fett's Fire Spray, which isn't something that people are playing much anymore, but takes out Ruthless Raider. A ton of different space units, right? And that's just hilarious to me. You play your big old Devastator, planning to slap down and win the game, and then someone plays, their freaking whale, space whale, and then kill your unit, and we're left with a 3/9. Another note to this, and someone in my Patreon mentioned this, which I think is absolutely hilarious, but these space units are non-vehicles, which is something that we don't see. And so you could even put like a Hot Shot Blaster on your Grappling Guardian, and then your freaking 5/9 space whale coming at you with a blaster just cracks me up. I absolutely love it. Absolutely love it. So really, really fun kind of combination there. And I don't think it's something that's necessarily going to be amazing or something that's even going to be really playable in a lot of decks, but it is just hilarious to me. And I love seeing the Purgle support. And that's going to wrap us up, guys. That's all the spoilers I have for you today. What do you think about the new Second Sister and readying up a bunch of resources? New drop 12 drop capital ship. Big Twin Suns win? Exegol Patroller is the Forced Order back with Supremacy tie. Mythosaur, another Twin Suns card. Pounce, can the creatures make it? And Grappling Guardian. Are we going to be able to slap Devastators out of the sky? That's what I want to do more than anything. Let me know what you think in the comment section down below, and I'll see you all for the next one.